Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode of the Financial Freedom for Physicians podcast. And I'm really excited about today's topic because it's all about financial tips for residents, wellness, and I'm really happy to have a Greg Elsberry. He's with Pattern Life Insurance on the show, and he's a sponsor of the show, official sponsor of the show. And we're gonna do it a little bit differently because he goes around the country talking to residency programs, directors, chairs, residents about financial planning. And we thought it would be interesting to have me in the chair, him asking me the question. So I'm really excited about today's episode. And, wherever you are live, like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I'm happy to welcome Greg to the show. Welcome, Greg.
Dr. Lou, thanks for having us. We're excited to be here. We appreciate the opportunity and looking forward to a fun conversation today. So thank you.
Yeah, I know you had me in the spotlight, but before we begin, just briefly tell your role at Pattern Life, what it is,
Yeah.
and how people can find you and all that.
So, Pattern, obviously, we get the pleasure of working with physicians and helping them secure their income. And so our role, our department is really focused on education. So we go out and we meet with residency programs and we provide lectures on non-clinical topics like disability insurance. So really getting to go into those classrooms during those didactic times and just talk about DI. And so really fun conversations come from those lectures, and you walk away with just a better understanding of, hey, what is DI? Why do I need it as a resident? What can I plan for? What does the process look like? So, as Patterns kind of progressed over the last 11 years, we want to look at how do we give back? How do we help provide education to institutions across the country? And it's a fun gig. We look forward to more of those in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And for all the audience, be sure to check out the link in the show notes. Check out Pattern Insurance, see how it fits into your plans and goals. And I'm happy to get into the talk. So I know, Greg, you had a list of questions to ask, and I'm happy to delve into it.
Thank you, Dr. Lou. So first off, I'd love to kind of know, these days you're a high performer. What's on your mind? What are you doing to kickstart the day? What are you doing to stay focused? Anything new, exciting, or kind of just the standard stuff? Just get in your mind a little bit.
Yeah, I've studied top performers, and really just what the main thing that's a common theme among high performers is they wake up early and they go to bed late. So they wake up early, they have a morning routine, whether that's journaling, meditation, cold showers, sprints, these things where they get to strategically plan for the day before the day gets ahead of them. So that's one thing. I normally start out, I wake up, I do sprints to just wake my body up, shock my body, followed by a cold shower, and then just a healthy, nutritious breakfast. And from there, I'm ready to tackle the day. So that's kind of where I am these days. Topic wise, I'm really interested in technological trends, especially with the AI trend coming, and I'm evaluating how it's going to affect finances, how it's going to affect careers, how it's going to affect jobs. So many implications. So I'm always studying that. So that's where I'm at now.
I love that. It seems like AI is just ever present, right? We're constantly figuring out how to implement it, how to use it. And I definitely see an opportunity there for it, for sure. So awesome. Yeah, I think getting up early, getting your mind right, just having that kind of quiet time to really set the stage for the day is invaluable, right? Especially from a resident's perspective, or working with a ton of residents across the country, as I alluded to earlier. But it's just a grind. And so, on the topic of residents, from a financial literacy or financial planning perspective, in your experience, what do you see kind of a few mistakes that maybe are made during that residency time that maybe impacts them down the line that they're just not considering right now?
Yeah, it's really a big transition going from med school to residency. Med school, you're in debt, and you're really transitioning from kind of like more of a passive, like, assistant role to more of an active role, taking along a lot of responsibilities. So and it's really important to plan. I think for a lot of the audience, if you're in med school or even a residency, it's not too late to start planning. So one thing is top of mind is student loan management, and just ignoring that. And a lot of student residents come out with 300, 400K student loan debt. And that's significant, and so there's a lot of ways to manage that student loan management. Some of it's, coming due 6 months, some of it's coming due immediately. So really work with a student loan planner. A lot of times there's loan forgiveness programs, there's different debt repayment programs, other career options you can go into to help pay for those loans. So that's the first thing is student loan management. So second thing is delaying retirement saving. So, retirement saving and investing, it's a long game and it's a strategic game. You don't have to be a genius to get ahead financially. And it all comes down to sound financial habits. So saving at least 10 to 20% if you can, and investing that. So Roth IRA, a brokerage account, start getting that money working for you as early as possible and as much as possible. So that's one thing. The beauty of compound interest is that it's hugely powerful. Once you build a powerful nest egg that can substantially reduce your burdens and set you ahead financially. So that's the second thing. Third thing is lifestyle inflation. So you're going to be around a lot of doctors, attendings, making significant six figures, millions. And so you're going to be tempted to, splurge on a Porsche or, buy. I knew residents in California, they were bragging during 2008, they bought these 800K mansions and a lot of them are hurting from that. So kind of really be wary of lifestyle inflation. One thing that I love to do, one of my favorite mantras is live like a resident. But, like I said, wealth is not what you see, it's what you can do with it. So people don't see the bank accounts, they see, the outward. So that's the third thing is lifestyle inflation. And then also just kind of, there's a lot of new apps, there's a lot of software that can budget and track expenses. Like I said, just live within your means, spend less than you earn, save the rest. There's a lot of options and there's a lot of different resources out there for you to track expenses. So that's fourth thing. And last thing is insurance coverage. So really, especially with lawsuits, you can get injured, you can get sick. So make sure your insurance coverage is adequate. These are very practical things. And if you really take them into consideration, they can actually protect you in these sort of catastrophic events. So those are kind of the five things. That's a general overview. We don't have the time to, delve specifically into it, but I'm happy to answer questions from that.
I love that. What, on our side, from the disability perspective, the standard disability claim lasts about 2.5 years with physicians. And we're saying, well, gosh, something were to happen, do you have 2.5 years worth of money to keep that lifestyle, go to the same schools? And if you don't, then it's like, it kind of gives you pause a little bit. We've got to, kind of look at something to protect that. And so that nest egg you alluded to earlier, I think is a big deal. And living life like a resident, I think is awesome, right?
Yeah.
So I think that just kind of, even after, the first couple years of an attending job, if you can keep that to really start stashing away some of that income that you're now getting, I think that's a very big deal.
Yeah.
You mentioned a couple apps. Is there anything you're really excited about, to name maybe one or two that, helps track expenses or helps manage things that can, everything's on our phone right now. So how do we leverage that technology to, be more successful when it comes to financial planning and literacy?
So a lot of them. So for example, I love Mint, and it's basically gives you a comprehensive overview of your financial situation. It can link your bank accounts, your credit cards, investments, and loans, and it can also keep track of spending, create budgets. There's a lot of different things like Pocket Guard. It helps manage your money by showing how much you have. Like I said, there are so many like now, but choose one. I mean, choose the free one and just kind of do it, and track your expenses. I know a lot of residents, they don't want to use these. They just use Google spreadsheets, and every month they have, income, they have a balance, and they do it that way. But, there's a lot of different apps. I like Mint. It's really easy to use and it's very popular. So those are kind of the ones.
Awesome. That's awesome. Just being able to get an alert of saying, hey, here's what you spent this month, right? Like that, just staying top of mind, I think is awesome, especially from a resident's perspective, and so, as you shift from residency and going into either a fellowship or your first attending gig, there is that, I want that Porsche. Right now I'm making 5, 6x what I was making as a resident. How do you live? Because you've lived it. How do you live like a resident? How do you keep that mindset? I mean, I know there's a lot of discipline involved there, but in goals and goal setting that kind of goes on through residency. But how do you keep that discipline so that you can, see that light at the end of the tunnel, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Really, I mean, like you alluded to, it's all about discipline. And the reason why I love studying the top performers because it's all about discipline. And case in point is professional athletes, just top performers, top surgeons, top physicians, all these CEOs, people that are really excelling, it's all about discipline. So, I mean, once you develop habits and discipline, it's all about execution. So, like I said, financial freedom and financial independence. I know a lot of, well, doctors that are the smartest, but they're very poor. And I know some average doctors, they have good habits and they're financially ahead. So that's the first thing is just kind of, finances are your number one key that you have to start considering transitioning from your attending role, and also from fellowship as well. So that's the first thing. The second thing is when you start this financial planning transition, you have to realize that, once you've created this, comfortable nest egg, you're making maybe 50 to 60K as a resident, and as an attending, you're 300, 500, 700K. So that kind of that first attending role. So you have to really, it's going to be a huge income bump, and you're going to, like I said, it's like a 5 to 6 times your salary. So you're going to be very tempted. But if you live like a resident for the first 3 years and just on that meager resident salary, that 50K salary, and then you save and invest the rest, it could be through real estate, it could be through index funds. You put that money to work. That first 3 years will set you ahead 10 years, 15 years ahead of the colleagues that are, buying the $1 million homes. I know a lot of physicians, they were very frugal coming out of fellowship and into their first attending roles the first 3 years, and now they're financially ahead. So really consider that. It's just kind of like 3-year investment into your finances, paying off those student loans, living below your means, getting ahead, and it'll set you up. So that's kind of that first thing. I know you have another question about, getting ready for fellowship and your attending role, but that's kind of the financial side.
Yep. Well, and residents, I mean, doctors, physicians, they're making that investment in themselves, disciplined enough to keep making that investment, over the first 2, 3 years, so that the next 15, 20 years, you can live a lot, more free life. Discipline aspect is something to remember. It's hard, but, staying disciplined with whatever you're doing can obviously pay off dividends. We see a lot of dual physician households. I was at an institution last week, and one of the residents came up and said, do you guys work with couples? And I said, well, of course, a little bit, and what the goal should be. We don't, from a disability insurance perspective, the goal isn't to have 2 DI policies, a space where we can dump that disability insurance policy down the line, potentially liquid assets. We have enough nest eggs. So, are there anything specific that dual physician, households should be focused on, or, anything nuanced to that, right? That you see?
Yeah. So dual doctor households is really interesting because that basically puts you have a dual doctor income. So you have that extra cushion in case, a physician, loses their job, or, has a career change, or wants to do something different. So that's the first thing, is you're in a better position with a dual doctor household. With that being said, there's a lot of caveats to consider. The first thing is your tax liability is going to increase a lot. So you have to really have a tax planning, explore tax saving opportunities, strategies tailored for high income households, employ a tax professional. The second thing is, with dual doctor households, estate planning is going to be really important for your kids, for your grandkids. So, powers of attorney, healthcare directives, a lot of these things. The thing that I really love about dual doctor households is that because of that extra cushion, I know, for example, my wife and I were both healthcare. I'm more of the entrepreneur, so I can invest in real estate. I can look at other business investments, I can evaluate other opportunities. And so I know a lot of dual doctor households. One is the stable W-2, kind of makes that 300, 400K. And then the other one is kind of the more risk, and you can take a little bit more risk and set themselves up a lot higher. So that's kind of the way. And then a lot of dual doctor households, they use it as a cushion. So in case they want to have kids, they don't have to have childcare. One of the spouses can stay at home and take care of kids. And it's not just the women. I know a lot of male physicians that stay at home and take care of the kids these days. So those are kind of the different thing. It's you're in a bigger and a better position, but it also, with that, you have to consider debt. You have to have coordinated financial planning. So those are the some of the things I've seen.
Yep. And we hear a lot about managing stress, no matter what the career timeline we're in, but especially those early kind of physician years, managing stress. Obviously, through residency is a different thing, but from a stress perspective, I'm assuming that the financial aspect has a fairly large component of that. Maybe I didn't live like a resident for the first year, and I'm kind of trying to backtrack a little bit. What, from a stress perspective, from your mind, how big does the finances, obviously there's the impact of being a physician, but does finance play a big component of that if we're not setting ourselves up for success?
I think finances go up on the top one or two, the things of really causes of stress, especially with physicians. You have people pulling you in all different directions. You really have to have a way to manage your stress. So and a lot of my colleagues, unfortunately, a significant portion of them are divorced or separated. So finances are the top of like the spending habits of the one partner or the other. Significant financial debt, not saving enough, a lot of, and then the second thing is kids. A lot of disagreements and about how to raise kids, different values. So that's one of the top things is divorce can be extremely costly, especially for physicians, losing half of your assets, because of separation. So really pay attention to who you marry. Make sure you have the same financial spending, investing habits. Make sure you have the same values around money. Make sure you have the same values around raising kids. And so kind of those things. I love this saying where it's really who you choose it's not about love. It's, it has to be a practical thing where you look at things and because it's almost like you're entering into a business transaction, and finances are really huge. So that's one other thing. And the other thing is that's really helped is just have set boundaries as you have kids, as you're progressing in your career. You have your spouse and all of these things, all these obligations. You're going to have to really set boundaries on your time, who you allow into your circle, how you network, and just who your friends and colleagues are. So those are kind of the things. And, have a life outside of your family as well as your career. So, have a drink with your friends and, go travel and, go to conferences, network, and always be continuously growing. So that's where you're not being stagnant.
Yeah, I like that. One of the things you just mentioned was your circle of friends, and I equate that to trust. And so working with residents, obviously, they're being sought after individuals who are going to be very, high income earners. They're getting sought after left and right, from financial advisors, from financial planners, insurance companies, wanting to sell them everything and anything under the sun. Right? And so I guess my question is, one, how do you find somebody you can trust from that perspective? Because there's a lot of instances where people get, put into something that they really shouldn't have. Target audience for some skeezy things that may happen. And obviously there's a lot of good intentions, but if I'm a resident, how do I go explore options and find, one, somebody that I can trust, but two, that has my best interest in mind? I think that's a big deal.
Yeah, it's really, like I said, I took a little bit more unconventional approach. Was I learned how to invest. I learned what money was, how it worked, how to save it, grow it, invest it, multiply it, protect it. So you want somebody, either that you either through your education or through your network. And if you can learn it and just if it can save you a lot of money, it's going to take a lot of years of hard work and a lot of education. So one thing is always continuous education for yourself. The one thing that really gets doctors is these high fees. So it could be mutual funds, could be all these different vehicles. All these are high fees, for that company that's selling those. And again, physicians are a target because they're high income. So they need to be worried that as a physician, they're going to be sought after and pitched a lot. So that's one thing is educate yourself, learn from, talk to other attendings that are successful, that are living the lifestyle that and the values that resonate with you. So one thing when I was a resident, I always saw the attendings that I wanted to emulate and be like, and I sought their advice, not just clinically or career wise, but financially, who do they use? So that these things, and then you have to once you have a list, you have to it's basically kind of narrowing it down, and you talk to a lot of people, then you can ask the hard questions. And if there's something, trust your gut. If there's something off, then there's usually something's up with that. So it's going to take a lot of talking to people, educating. And like I said, if you don't have that time, your spouse, or talking through your network of friends, people that like and trust, and then that way you can kind of vet those individuals.
Yes. And you'd be so surprised. I think that's awesome. You'd be so surprised, when we go speak to a group of residents and we talk about just what is a premium? What is a benefit? Sometimes their mind glazes over. It's like, well, I know how to do a wrist surgery, but what's a premium? And so that's where that disconnect often comes. And so, that's where I mentioned earlier, our goal is to really come in and provide that baseline education so that they can go seek out, that mentor. And I think, you mentioned, I think mentorship's a big deal because oftentimes we have a referral come in from, I need to look into this, and he said you were the best. Quote unquote mentorship, I think, is big. Finding an attending doc, especially in residency, that you trust, lives that lifestyle that you want to emulate one day. I think that's a big deal, because I think there's a lot of times where doctors get into situations that, gosh, they wish they could get themselves out of. And I think one of the things that we're seeing is kind of this trend of healthcare systems moving from W-2 to a 1099. Physicians calling us and saying, well, I had group coverage, and I thought that was sufficient. Well, it turns out it wasn't, right? But now I have nothing. So what do? I'm behind the 8 ball. I could be 35, I could be 45, I could be 50. And now I need to go find coverage to protect this income. It's kind of scary. We're working through a lot of that. But, are you seeing that? Are there things that doctors that get put in that situation should look out for? Like, hey, if I'm going 5-1, I have to, go to a self-employment 1099 where I've been W-2 for the last 10 years. What do I need to do?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you mentioned, because I've seen that a lot through, for example, my brother, he's anesthesia, and he transitioned from academic practice to locums, and now he's 1099. So he has to, he purchases disability insurance, DI, and it's a tax write-off for him through his S1 corporation. So there are a lot of tax advantages to S1, and the beauty of self-employment is you control your time and your income. But again, it's going to be an added expense onto you that is not covered by the company or the hospital, and so that usually comes in the form of a premium, or can also be a tax deduction, or so you can look into those things. The other thing I've seen in my area, I live in the Houston, Texas Medical Center, is a lot of hospitals are buying up physician practices. And so a lot of physicians in private practice, they couldn't cut it because they can't compete with these big conglomerates. And so now they're becoming W-2, which is quite interesting. So it sounds like, in different parts of the country, or depending on how you want to navigate your career, you go from W-2 or 1099. So
Yep, that's interesting. It's very interesting. I think, just being prepared, how do I set up an LLC? There's things that they've never had to do before that now they're in a position where they have to go handle all those things. And so again, I think that goes back to, who do I trust? Where do I go find platforms that I can, glean this information from and learn and go execute on? I think, obviously financial literacy and planning and being disciplined is fun, and it's good, and we need that. But is there anything you splurged on kind of right outside? Like I think of a resident that's, getting done, like, should I take that trip? Should I, go give myself a 7-day cruise? Is there anything that it's like, hey, go do this to, give yourself that momentum that you need to kind of go into that next chapter? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with spending your hard-earned money. Like I said, money is a tool and a resource. So, it does nothing beneficial to just hoard that money and just watch your nest egg. It's to help others. It's to, take care of yourself. So, there's nothing wrong with spending that hard-earned money. It could be a cruise. I mean, it could be a 7-day vacation. You've worked hard for that. You deserve that. And, like I said, a lot of, I've seen a lot of colleagues, they pass away early and they never got a chance to enjoy that. So really, there's time for a splurge. And, if you want a new car or like a vacation or, trips, these things are, you've deserved it. You've worked hard for it. So really, travel, having a hobby and interest, like I said, your health is your wealth. So if you don't have your health, it really makes no difference if you're making $1 million or nothing. So like I said, money is a tool and a resource. And just like I said, our time here is really quality time with loved ones, our contribution to society, how we show up in the world, what we put out, and what we contribute. So, like I said, the problem is when your expenses become more than your income, then that's when you get yourself into trouble or you take on excessive debt and, make these financial mistakes.
Your health is your wealth. I like that a lot. You've given me some good anecdotes that I'm definitely going to use there. So I appreciate that. I think the last question I have would be, we've got our investments, we've got, our savings, we've got, all those kind of core things. Not everyone has an entrepreneurial spirit such as yourself. Things that doctors or physicians could be doing that are unrelated to practice. Leap to go, join TikTok or, are you seeing any consistencies among your peers of things that, doctors or physicians are doing to go earn extra income?
Yeah, absolutely. And the more I help physicians and I talk to physicians, it really was kind of considered taboo to be doing anything other than clinical medicine around 20 years ago. But that really changed after the great financial crisis, and really people started to open their eyes. And especially after COVID, people saw how fragile their jobs were. So when I talk to younger colleagues, especially med students and residents, they understand this. They get it. They understand that the world is changing, healthcare is changing, technology, AI is changing the way we do things. And so they are preparing. They are doing what we were talking about. They are saving, they're investing, they're not taking on student loans, they're not being excessive, they're saving, they're living below their means. And they understand this concept of a portfolio career. So they could become investors, consultants, coaches, writers. There's so many, because the doctor's skill set prepares you for all of these different fields. So a lot of residents starting to understand that they ace their exams, they can coach others, and they speak and they write, they can use these platforms, they have the brand, they have the credibility. So that's the first thing. And really, in these days, as a physician, really to protect your income, you have to have multiple streams of income from investments, from different avenue sources, different jobs. And the younger generation really gets that. I think when I talk to the kind of the established career, and with all these transitions and COVID, it's just very disoriented, because they've always been accustomed to this idea of a single job and staying there for 50 years, but that's really changing these days.
I went down, match day just happened, right? Video on Instagram, and I got all these match day videos. So it's just fun to, the generational difference of how to leverage social media to create a following. Discipline that I've used to get through med school and residency and into that attending job to go do other things. And so I think that's good, that freedom, that ability to go, kind of veer away. I've still got my medicine, right? But I'm going and trying new things. I think that's a good spirit to have. So I love that. Well, gosh, I hope this has been fun for me, just to kind of flip the script a little bit. I hope it's been fun for you, and I appreciate you taking the time to let us ask you some questions. This has been fun.
And I love this. And for all the audience, let's thank Greg for coming on, and all of his resources will be in the links and show notes. Be sure to give Pattern a like and follow on social. And with that, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you.